After Aroldis Chapman blew it yesterday in the Yankees-Orioles game, I want to give you my reasoning on why I think the Yankees need to let Chapman walk after this season. Now, Aroldis Chapman's been in the league for a shockingly long time. He first pitched in 2010, and there is one thing noticeable about him: his velocity. He was throwing harder than we had ever seen, hitting 106 on the radar gun, commonly hitting 103, 104, numbers which had never been hit before. When he came into the league, throwing above 100 was rare, incredibly rare. And he was throwing 105, 106. It was ridiculous. This made him one of the best relievers in baseball. He was 10th in the Cy Young voting one year. He was 12th in MVP voting. He was an all-star 4 years in a row. He was ridiculously good. Now, as he got older, something started to happen. His velocity started to decrease. This is what you expect. He started in the league at 22 years old. His arm was pretty much at its prime. And then he starts to get a little bit slower as he starts to get past 30. That's what you would expect. The issue is that other people are starting to throw faster now. Chapman's velo difference between everyone else, it used to be him all the way up here, everyone else down here. Now he's gone a little slower, and people have gotten faster. The gap is a lot less large. That's bad for someone who really relies on speed. And then last season, the sticky substance crackdown really hurt him. If you look at his spin on his pitches, it becomes evident to you, if you look at it a lot, that he was one of the pitchers that probably was in between using stuff like pine tar and spider tack. There were the extreme ends like Garrett Richards, who needed stuff like spider tack to pitch, then some pitchers who just used pine tar to get better control on the ball. Chapman seemed to be one of the people who just needed control on the ball, because his rotations per minute dropped a good amount, but not as much as someone like Garrett Cole or Garrett Richards, who we know was using stuff like spider tack. So he was probably just using something to get better command on the baseball, because command's always been an issue for him. Over his 13-year career, he's averaged 4.3 walks per nine, which is a lot. Even as a reliever, that is still a good amount there, and can get him into jams sometimes. So he needed stuff like maybe spider tack or pine tar, so he could control the ball better and throw it as hard as he needed to and get it into the strike zone at a good enough rate where he was a very, very effective reliever. Now what happened is his control is even worse. I mean, this year he's walked 9 batters per 9. Last year, 6.1, which is just way too high. He gets into too many jams because of that. It makes him very unreliable. But he's trying to increase his control, and the only way he can really do that is by decreasing his velocity. Last night he threw a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. 93. He used to be throwing 103 on the regular. He's had to slow down in order to get better control. And now he's a guy who's average in velocity of some relievers right after this crackdown. He can probably throw the hardest of most pitchers. Maybe Jordan Hicks could throw harder. But he was one of the guys who was averagely throwing the hardest. Or throwing the hardest on average. And now he needs to slow down, making him kind of just a hard thrower, but not the hardest anymore. And now his command is absolutely horrendous. People can consistently in the major leagues throw 100 miles an hour out of the bullpen and have much better control than Chapman, which is really making him not that effective. And it's sad to see, because Yankees are paying him $17 million a year. That could have been spent this year to get a lot better. I think there is some hope here. I think the Yankees should move Chapman away from the closer role, Just make him a normal reliever because he could be okay there. He doesn't need to throw a million miles an hour. Still a reliever in medium to lower stress situations. Again, not what you want to see from someone you're paying $17 million a year, but that's the smartest thing that the Yankees could do here. So that would be my advice. Just move Chapman into a less stressful role, and then after this season, let him walk. I know he's said he wants to be a Yankee for life. He wants to put the pinstripes back on after this season. But unless he's willing to take a very significant pay cut, I think the Yankees should let Aroldis Chapman walk this offseason.